Is now called to order. It is Monday, June 3rd, 2019. Time is 5:15 p.m. Joanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ernst?
Here.
Commissioner Engel?
Here.
Commissioner Rollins?
Here.
Commissioner Rollins here. Commissioner Wright?
Here. Commissioners, are there any changes to the agenda? Okay. Okay, at this time, would you please silence your phones? And if you want to have a private conversation with your neighbor, would you please step out? That would be wonderful so we could all enjoy the meeting. This is now time for public requests. If you please step up to the microphone, you may say your name and your address, and we'd really like to hear from you, Mr. Sicaro.
Good evening, folks. Al Zuccaro, 561 Golden Harbor Drive. I have a process issue that I'd like to bring up today. And it may not be the appropriate day to bring it up because there's actually only one item on the agenda. But it's been my experience here that you offer the public an opportunity to speak at the microphone at every meeting. But the public is reacting and speaking to the issues of the past, not to the issues that are going to be handled tonight. And the public does not have the opportunity to speak to the topics of the evening. So the process that I'm asking you to consider is to offer to the public an opportunity for those that want to leave early to come up at the beginning of the meeting and speak their piece. But during the course of your deliberations, offer the public an opportunity in each individual item that's on your agenda, the ability to address the concerns and the issues and the plans or impacts on the plans that are being discussed tonight for tomorrow's events or for next week's events, so that the public isn't always a week or 2 weeks behind in terms of its ability to offer you the insights and points of view. That's all I got. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Al.
All right, good afternoon, Tom Thayer, 4821 North Dixie Highway in Boca Raton, Florida. And I've got a suggestion as you do the final layout of the boardroom here, and that would be to move Melissa and Joanne down here, unless that desk is locked in concrete. The reason being is whatever guest you have that's going to use the magic board has no idea how to use the magic board. So if you put them down here, unless they're the guards for the door, they will be in a much better position to show somebody how to use the magic board. So that's my suggestion for today. And I know you're going to do some things with the sound system and whatnot, with speakers and audio panel and what have you. So that'll be nice to get that finished off as well. So as you know, tomorrow is the first Tuesday of the month, and we always extend an invitation to the board and to the public to come to the Federation of Homeowners Association meeting. And I see Craig back this meeting, and he oftentimes swings by there on his way to work, so that's always good to see. But you're all welcome, and tomorrow we have our freshman state representative, Mike Caruso, speaking. He'll be the keynote. And I've heard him twice since the legislative session has ended, and doing a fantastic job. As you probably know, he replaced term limited Bill Hager in the state legislature, and he'll be there to talk about some of his favorite topics that came up in the legislative session. Another part of the program will be on the Boca Raton's Clean and Cut program, which is, we just started the hurricane season a couple of days ago. This will be on how and where and when to put your cuttings out for picked up before an actual hurricane gets here. And the community spotlight will be at Tri-County Animal Rescue. Susie Goldsmith, the executive director, will be talking about one of our really great nonprofit organizations here, and just outside the city, actually, and outside the Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District as well. But it certainly has an influence on the city of Boca Raton. And that's all I have, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Who's going to speak? Okay, Michelle.
Michelle Peel, 7391 Northeast 8 Court. I'm keeping my remarks very simple tonight. I've been watching the tapes of the meeting between the district and the city. I couldn't stay for the whole thing. I watched some of the city council discussion afterwards. And I'm a little bit alarmed at how difficult some of those conversations seem to be. So what I do want to say is, you guys have done a tremendous thing by setting aside all that green space that has been Boca Chica, and so you should feel good about that portion of what you've done already. No matter what happens going forward, whether you take on the project and it's as big as you want it, or the city takes on the project and it's a much smaller version, you guys have already accomplished something significant. I will remind you that there are other projects in the city for non-golfers that you know are near and dear to my heart and Humboldt and love. And I ask that you do keep that in mind as you go through these discussions, but feel good about what you've done already, okay?
Thanks, Michelle.
Good afternoon, Bronwyn de Villiers, 61 Via Floresta Drive, Boca. I'm here as a resident and as a very, very strong Gumbo Limbo supporter, and I also want to endorse what Michelle said. We're in everything she said. Please don't forget Gumbo. It's very important. We have lots of supporters, and we're losing them for lots of reasons if we don't fix things up. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
For the record, Robert Duque, 5351 Northwest 3rd Terrace. I can tell you that I want to reiterate what Michelle said. I really appreciate the fact that the Beach Park District has preserved the green space and saved it from being developed. I think last week it was announced that Lennar was building on a golf course in Broward County, if you saw that. So we could have been in that same position, so we want to thank you. I can tell you that the non-golfing residents, some of them don't really care, they happens with the golf course for a few years, as long as they can meet your budgetary requirements. So happy with it being delayed. For the golfers out there, I know myself, I played Osprey recently. It's in excellent shape. Played other golf courses around the area. So there are other golf courses, but of course we'd like to have Boca National playable in good condition. So whether or not it's the park district or if it's the city, we just hope there's some cooperation, and the golfers, of course, look forward to playing a nice public course in the city. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
My name is Harold Chaffee, 6200 Northwest 2nd Avenue. I just want to commend you on exactly what was said before, that you should be very happy that we at least should say the green space. We did one thing. All right, we'd like to go a lot further than that. But it seems like it's bogged down for either personalities or politics. I really don't know. There are a lot of things that you want to get accomplished, and there's a lot of things that you only could probably handle it well, much better than the city could. I mean, you've had a lot of problems with overruns and things like that, but also as a city. The city hasn't really mastered any one of their projects that they have done. From the wildflower, which still is never going to be done. I don't know if it's a protest against the people demanding them to get the property, just a show of power, or basically and even the Spanish River Library, which is a failure. Like when they bought the property for the Hornley Park, okay, they paid $150,000 an acre, and they paid $100,000 an acre for Boca Chica, okay, which is a hell of a lot less. They also, when they wanted to develop the land, it was I think $24 to $27 million to develop the land, but they couldn't handle the project. But who did they come to? They came to you. They handled you with the project, okay? You cost engineered it. You brought it down to $15 million and saved the city $10 to $12, $14 million. So you're the people that could do the job. It's just that you need cooperation from the city to do it. But they always came to you whenever there was a problem. They always come to you to work it out. I don't know. I can't understand why the reluctance at this point. I really don't. It has to be political. I know elections are coming up, maybe it all has to do with that, them getting reelected. But in my estimation, the plan that you came up with, they can't scrimp on this golf course, so it'll be a failure again. And it's not a matter of, years from now, they'll talk about the $20 million like it was nothing. But unless you do it right and grow the game, there won't be any company. And the way that you've laid it out with the stages, with the learning center and the driving range, executive course, and the 18 holes, it's progress. It's basically getting the youth, teaching them how to play and moving them on. And that's the only way it should be done. In the beginning, I was for the 27 holes. And the main reason was because, let's compete with Osprey. You're not going to compete with Osprey. You're just going to get the overflow. So you're going to get. The thing is to do something unique, something different than they did. And basically, that's what you've designed. You've designed a course that's different, that takes the youth and moves them right up. I don't think the city had that in mind. When I listened to that, they were not going to do a learning center. They were not going to do a lot of things. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you for your support.
Good evening, Joel Bowie, Elm Tree Lane, Camino Gardens. And I also want to thank you. It's a difficult task. I sent you all an email this week, and I'm sure you received it. And I got some response back from some of you all. Basically, Mr. Zaccaro was right. We like to do this afterwards, not before, but I'm going to anticipate that we're talking about golf course costs and how to do the job. And as in my working life, I came down here right out of college in the 60s, and I was a contractor, general contractor, and a developer. So when I look at a project, I look at it in a detail, and I heard a definition of value engineering. We used to, as contractors, go through everything with just a sharp pencil, fine-tooth comb. And I know in looking at, you guys have spent a lot of time and effort on this. You've set it up in stages, which is good. That's probably the way it will be done and should be done. My concern was stage 1 and stage 2, you still didn't have an operating golf course. You had no cart barn, you had no check-in place, no pro shop, none of those things. And there was a to be determined in the cost item, and you really can't do that. You need to estimate all your costs. I also was I thought some of the costs, I'm hoping you're looking at them, over 2.6 million for a maintenance facility. The maintenance building at Osprey is about 7,500 square feet. It's a metal building. Should be able to do something for a couple $100 a square foot. Same with the cart barn, maybe 7,500 square feet for a cart barn at a couple $100 a square foot. That's sort of the way you look at it. And honestly, I think, and I know you guys are working awfully hard, I think if you go through, come up with a really well thought out assessment of your costs, of what you say the costs are going to be, go to the city and say, here's what it's going to cost, and here's what we need, and make it very specific. I've made 50 presentations to lenders or investors, and you just have to be really specific, really certain. Even if you really don't know the answers yourself, you have to appear to know all the answers. That's you're the pros. You guys are the ones that they're looking at, and I know you'll do a good job. This course is unique in some ways. Yesterday, if you look, it was raining cats and dogs out at Osprey. It was not raining on the east side. It's also east of I-95, and that's a big factor. It's approachable from Broward County and up in Palm Beach. It can be a great facility. We just need to get it done. Thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
Beth Lazarus, 5691 D Park Solid Drive, across the way. I just want to thank you. The swimming pool is almost all done, and we're almost all done here. We're waiting for the hot tub to get done. And for those of you who don't swim, please come over. And will you announce in the next 3 meetings that on July 20th, I think, is the big grand opening here? Bring everybody. It's a great place, and it's a lot easier to swim than it is to golf.
Hello, Barry Tatro, 3088 Northwest 27th Avenue, Boca Raton. I was at the meeting last week and it was like, bombshell, you don't need your money. You don't need your money. I mean, the city's like, come on, what's your ask? What's your ask? And it was really shocking that we don't need anything. Well, this is kind of the folly of having public discussions before discussions, because I feel like, you guys will probably answer like those questions about that finance bombshell that you dropped last week, which I guess would be cool. But personally, I think that the fact that they took that golf course out from under is a punishable offense, so to speak. I mean, let's not let them get away with this, okay? I think they need to shell over a fairly good percentage of the $65 million. They stole their golf course. In essence, they took it away from us. They tried to find another reasonable plot of land, and thank God Boca Chica and Ocean Strand, or what, not Ocean Strand, God forbid, whatever, Ocean Breeze, failed, and there's this open patch of nothing that the Beach and Parks took it amongst themselves to say, hey, we're going to save you from, this heist. But you gotta get money out of this deal. Seriously.
Thank you, Barry.
Charles Boston Reed, 900 Northwest 9th Way, Boca Raton. I feel that if the city, you need to throw the ball into the city's court. You need to give them some idea of, like what Joel said, exact cost of what you can do, what you expect them to do. I also feel that a good amount of, fair amount, and what's needed should be taken out of the $65 million of the sale of the Boca Municipal Golf Course and put into making Boca National a really nice golf course, in conjunction, of course, with working with the Parks and Beach. I think the city really needs to step up to the plate and show that they're interested in this and making it work, and not just kind of like having to pull teeth, on their part, your part for their part. So I just like to encourage you, your professionals here, your competent people. And I think what I've heard, I haven't been to many of these meetings, but you've done a lot of good work with a lot of other projects in the city of Boca. And so just come up with some real hard numbers. Like Joel said, even if you don't know, make it appear that you know. And let the city, I don't know if I should say this, but let them sweat a little bit. Let them have to step up to the plate, and everybody's watching, and you did your job, you made it clear, and now what are you going to do about the city? So make them work hard as you have worked, and I think that they'll do it. I think public opinion wants them to do that, and to work together. We talked about it last meeting. So anyway, I'm praying that would happen.
Thank you, Charles. Would anyone else like to speak?
Barbara Chaffee, 6200 Northwest 2nd Avenue, Boca Raton. After attending the joint meeting on May 28th, I was extremely confused listening to the conversation between the city and the Beach and Park that night. The topic, I thought, was to approve or disapprove the design, and then I hear the city didn't understand the whole Boca National project. I recall being at all the meetings here for the Beach and Park, that they had sent the city a package with all the options for the golf course by net price, as well as preliminary cost analysis. Then The last package was the final option 4, which was agreed upon by all beach and park commissioners with costs for each phase. During the beach and park regular meeting, you commissioners discussed it all and seemed to be in agreement. As I listened during the joint meeting last week, I heard Commissioner Wright suggest that the city take over the district construction of the golf course, which was rather disappointing in my view. Actually, what I was under the impression that this takeover idea would have come out at one of your regular beach and park meetings. And I don't recall hearing any of you not wanting to approve the golf course layout and not wanting to continue with this project previously. Now some of you are offering it to the city. I think the residents would like to know why. I think as residents following your meetings for several years, you owe us an answer. Since October 2018, since April 2018, you all have listened to presentations by various designers and spent a lot of time questioning them and looking at their layouts. And then you voted for designer Nick Price. And you worked with their team in laying out Boca National, listening to whys and how this design was arrived at, and having public input meetings with residents. And now some of you want to pass it over to the city, and still the same question, why? The city has spent a lot of our taxpayer money and time on other city projects, and I'm sure they never completed it within budget. Here is an opportunity for the north end of town, where some commissioners live, to have a better golf course than the city municipal course was for Boca Raton. Every business in the city depends upon outsiders, not just residents, being attracted to Boca, the restaurants, the bars, the bowling alley, Meisner, and even golf. The city council never addressed Ocean Breeze or its future for the residents of Boca previously. City council was only interested in unloading the municipal and getting money for their government complex, which is still a very active project on their agenda. I thought the commissioners were elected to buy property for parks and green space. Well, the golf course is a green space, and unlike all the parks you built, pay for, and improve, which is free to everyone, not just residents, the golf course can actually give you a return on your investment. So, commissioners, how many of you think the city can do a better job than the beach and park after spending years of your time, energy, and money to get as far as we can? And still the same question, why? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Chapman. Anybody else? Okey dokey. Thank you, everyone. We are now closing public requests, and it's time for the approval of the minutes of the May 20th, 2019 board meeting.
Move to approve.
Discussion? All in favor of approval, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign? Motion passes. Okay, here's where everybody is here to hear about our regular business, which is discussion of the Boca National Golf Course. We, as Mrs. Chaffee pointed out, we need to know what everybody else is thinking on this board. So Brianne prepared a pros and cons construction options form for all of us to weigh in on. And she's got a whiteboard. Okay. We're going to, the first option is that the city develops and constructs the golf course entirely. Second option, district develops and constructs the golf course entirely. Third option, city and district work together to develop and construct the golf course. So, not wanting to put anybody on the spot. Mr. Engel, would you like to start with your pros and cons, please?
Not one. There are a lot of issues here. I would like to say, first of all, when I left the meeting on May 28th, my impression was that the city was at least amenable to a part of our plan with some changes and some numbers. And while I didn't get a chance to view the city council meeting, speaking with others and hearing from others that did get that opportunity, I find that it was like the May 28th meeting really never happened. That the city is intent on not approving our golf course design, even with changes. That they're intent on not approving what money we asked for, regardless of how we value engineer it or what we do to get to that number. And they're not interested in changing whatever changes in design we might have. But they are interested in a golf course in Winter Park. That's a 9-hole golf course, and they feel that they can, by multiplication, come to a cost of maybe $3-4 million for an 18-hole course that is kind of short on amenities. So I wanted to preface whatever remarks I had with that. And with that, let me get into the pros and cons as laid out by Executive Director Harms. If the city develops and constructs the golf course entirely, my concern is that we have no say. And the city will develop and construct a course like a Winter Park, which is basically a bare bones course. We already have a bare bones course that's known as Boca Muni. And what has happened with that course? It's a money-losing proposition. It can't handle the competition from Osprey. And as a result, it's in the red year after year. So if a course like that is in the red year after year, what's a course that has even fewer amenities going to be like? You still have a competition from Osprey. You still have competition from private courses. You get what you pay for type of deal. If you want a bare bones course, if that's the direction the city wants to go, they have to understand what the ramifications might be. And some of the ramifications might be that people play it once and they decide they like Osprey better. Maybe they like Southwinds better. Where does that leave us? Okay, it leaves us with another money-losing golf course. To cut to the chase, I feel like the city and the district need each other. Okay, it's got to be a joint operation. Whether it's the city finances it and we run it, or there's cooperation between the two, I think that's the only way to go. And to do that, the city has to at least pay some kind of attention to our proposals, to the design that we propose. And the sense that I get, and I have to say this is not
exclusive to just the golf course. That this has been an ongoing issue with the city for years. That we make a proposal and the city rejects it out of hand because they feel they have something better. So my feeling is that there's an underlying issue someplace that we're not examining. Okay, and in order to fix this, we have to fix that issue. Okay. What? What is the problem that the city has with the district? And I think there's an issue here. I'd like to know what it is. The other problem I have is I don't think it's a great idea for us to go out and try and finance this. We have not only an obligation to the golf course, we have an obligation to residents that want to use our other facilities and have no interest in playing golf. We have the maintenance facilities here, the tennis courts that are going to need to be resurfaced shortly. There are issues with the pool. That needs to be taken care of. The Rutherford Center at Patch Reef, that's an accident waiting to happen. God forbid, one day somebody's going to walk under that portico and get hit by a falling chunk of concrete. All right, and lawsuits aside, the optics are horrible. Those, in a couple of years, those tennis courts are going to have to be revamped. Gumbo Limbo, the master plan. We've been putting this off for years. Okay, there's work that needs to be done. We can't put it off forever. We can't even put it off for maybe a couple of years. It's work that needs to be done. All these things, if we finance, we're going to have a problem fulfilling our other obligations to the residents of the Beach and Park District, and that's concerned.
Can you put that up here as one of your responses to that?
That's one of my comments. I don't want to hamstring us. We haven't even talked about the operating costs of the golf course. First 3-4 years, most of that money is going to come out of the district's pocket. How much is that going to be? Is that going to be $500,000, $250,000, $750,000, $1 million? We have to be prepared for it. So without addressing each of these questions individually, we have to have some kind of meeting of the minds with the city, all right? And they have to tell us exactly what the problem is, why we can't seem to see eye to eye on virtually any project that we start, that we come to them with. I mean, you know, they came to us with the Hornley, and no questions asked, we took it over. They came to us and asked for additional funds for beach renourishment, no questions asked. We said yes. So when it goes the other way, there seems to be an issue. I'd just like to know, what is that issue?
Well, that being said, do you have any other concerns as far as whether we do, you were suggesting that we do a combo. How are you suggesting, and what are the pros and cons of doing that combo?
Well, one of the cons right away is what I've just mentioned, that there's a problem coming to a meeting of the minds between the district and the state. So a concern would be getting past gridlock. Another concern would be the city, because for too great extent of their money, wanting to control the purse strings. We're already seeing that. A pro would be, it would be an opportunity for the city and the district to forge a real partnership. Okay, and to show what we can do if we put our minds to it and both headed in the same direction. And I think it's long past time that we all pointed in the same direction. Okay, and we forget about personal domains, empire building, petty personality differences, whatever the case might be.
Thank you, Steve. Erin, would you like to?
Well, I think I agree with the money aspect of us taking it over. Obviously, I don't agree with taking out loans for $50 million for the district. The district has the money, whether it come from the sale of the golf course or not. They have the money. Is it? Yeah. The us. What's it saying?
You were agreeing that we would have money for the projects, the city has done.
Right, they have the money. In terms of, and by the way, I did mention the city taking over at the last meeting, and it wasn't actually discussed because nobody else thought it was a good idea. So we didn't discuss it. So it was discussed at the joint meeting. Oh, I do, well, let me finish this first. And then, so the city taking it over, I do have concerns. There was basically one council member who had his opinions on Winter Park. There's 5 council members. He had one, his opinion, that's it. Nobody else has really looked into anything else, no other options. They see our option. They're kind of not sure on it. They haven't really gone through the process like we have. So I don't really know how that would work if they took it over. They'd probably get some consultant to come in and give their opinion on it. I don't know if they would hire another architect. I don't know if our architect would go work for them. I have no idea how it would work. But here at this meeting, this is what this is, to talk about it.
Design concerns?
So yeah, so design concerns, I don't like, I didn't really like the idea of them, you know, calling it a takeover is just kind of silly in the get-go. We're not just letting them just take it over. That's not what we want. But I do have concerns on them kind of just scrapping everything we've done and starting over. We paid like $1 million, I think, for design at this point. But the money aspect is a concern. So, and then, but at the joint meeting, like, can you blame them for kind of questioning us when we're throwing, first we say we don't need any money from them, and then we throw out a number of $10 million, just like numbers. And I'd like to ask, what happened at that joint meeting? Why was it set? Because we never agreed.
Can I address that?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
I appreciate that. Craig, did you know anything about that?
What?
About the $10 million offer from me?
No, I
Okay.
mean, I really didn't know the game plan going into it because I think they met ahead of time.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. Aaron, I didn't talk to you about it.
No, we did not.
Steve, I didn't talk to you either.
No, you did not.
Susie, I didn't talk to you either.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so I put to issue any question regarding the sunshine law violation. I came into this meeting with a prepared request specifically asking for a design approval. And I should have said I'd like to have the city approve the concept that we're presenting. Getting hung up in technicality there. And after watching the workshop, I was simply appalled, and let's say I came in just a little bit upset with the manner in which the council had conducted themselves. And on the fly, I thought I would take a different tactic and see what kind of result I get. And you know, if that upset anybody, that's the decision I made independently with anybody. You know, in 24 years of this council, I've never done anything like that. I'm a lot more conservative, but given the atmosphere that we walked into with the council, I thought maybe Jeremy Rogers' expression is correct, that he felt ambushed. And so did I, you know, watching the council meeting and discussion about the takeover of the golf course. So it's nothing more complicated than that.
Okay, so I was just very taken aback by the fact that you went ahead to say that we weren't asking for any money when we left our meeting in agreement, I believe.
I understood.
$15
That's the
million.
risk that you took by appointing me to that committee. I decided to make that decision on my own.
Okay, so I think that was a mistake.
Well, and where did it end up?
Nowhere.
It wasn't going anywhere to begin with.
I mean, but
But
to
listen,
tell you the
I
truth, my
consider-
disagreement was on the fact that you took it upon yourself to do that without discussing it with any of us.
I
And
could
you
not-
couldn't, I
I
agree
could
that.
not do that.
I agree
without-
that. But it
What was
just
it?
made us look extremely,
No, what made us look
Just
extreme is when the dissonance came when you're suggesting that we couldn't do it. That's where the.
I never suggested that we couldn't do it.
You-
Never suggested that we
well, you
couldn't
brought-
do it. I suggested that maybe let's discuss other options, maybe working with the city for them to look at doing some project management part of it.
I thought you were quite clear that.
I
we
never
didn't have
said,
funds.
let the city take it over, ever.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. You said we could not, we didn't have the $10 million. That's what you said.
I said we don't have $50 million to take out a loan. I don't agree with that.
No, that's not what I recall.
We don't have $10 million in cash. We don't.
Since I'm in the middle of this meeting, I'd like to say something.
Please do.
My impression of what Commissioner Wright said is that she was not aware that we were going to take out a $10 million loan or that we were contemplating. Am I correct?
I was just saying, yes, that we really never discussed that. We never came to agreement on anything about that.
No one said, neither Aaron Wright, that we were going to take out a loan. That was not the discussion.
Right, but if you go to the city and you say,
Here's what,
we can do this,
May I
that
finish?
implies that we're
Aaron,
taking
please let
$25 million
Defend
loan.
himself.
The fact of the matter is that we could not put out a bid with less than the $10 million in the bank. So that, and Deanna Frazier sitting across from me knew clearly that that was the case. We had cash in, I believe in the neighborhood of $5 million. One of the questions that was asked me, how would we pay for that? And I told Mayor Singer that we were in beginning our budgeting process and that we were going to be looking at our CIP and that there were some items in that CIP that I knew we could not approve. And I said, there's always a chance we could do a millage increase. So there were options there if we had agreed to do that. I really never expected, you ladies and gentlemen to, or that to get accepted because I knew that they were not going to accept our design. So that was just a tactical diversion on my part to see if I could get approval on the design. So, and I didn't like it, there it is.
Okay, let's get back to the issue at hand. Let's try to figure out how we're going to accomplish this because the city's expecting something on Monday. And if we don't show up with something in hand for them on Monday, that's just going to be more fodder for the fire. So, Aaron, do you have anything else that you have a strong feeling about, pro or con, on any of these issues?
The combination one seems to be the best option, although I agree with him on the good luck and the personal whatever is going on with the city. I don't see how that's going to work. I get along great with everybody in the city, so I think that's the best option. I don't think the city should completely take it over because I think in terms of the design, I think they'll scrap it and they'll start over. And they might not have the same vision as we do or the same vision as the residents. But also, I don't think we should completely do the whole thing. No, I think we should try to work together as best we can.
Well, just to remind everybody, we have an interlocal agreement that the city has signed. And if they can't just take it over, just keep that in mind.
No, and I just said I don't think they should.
No, I'm just saying that, just to clarify it for everyone, that they cannot just take it over because we have a signed interlocal agreement that was executed. and February of 2018.
What about the 18 holes? That's their property, right?
They still own it until we pay off the bond.
Right, so in reality, could they build out the 18 holes without our approval?
No,
They can't.
is that correct? They cannot.
The agreement that's referred to is the interlocal agreement. The interlocal agreement is a partnership relationship under state statutes between two governmental agencies, between the city and the district. And we read paragraph 7 to you publicly. I know that you've all read it to each other. It's all been read publicly. There's no mortgage on this property. You can't have a mortgage on publicly owned land. There's a bond issue, a revenue bond issue to finance the acquisition issue, which is referred to in the interlocal agreement. The end result is that there's the west side and the east side. And that it's specifically in the document. I can't just get the record just one more time.
Yes, do.
Article 7 talks about the improvements, which is really the plan of construction. The planning, design, and development of the property, which is the property in question, shall be the complete responsibility, not partial, but complete responsibility of the district. That's of you all in this organization. And the funding of all costs related to said planning, design, and construction shall be paid by the district. There's a mandate, which you've agreed to in the document to in fact finance it specifically. Prior to the district finalizing any plan for improvement of the property and any amendments thereto, hereafter referred to as the improvement plan, and or issuing or approving any request for proposal for planning, design, or construction. Those are three key phrases: planning, design, and construction. The district has already engaged Price Fazio for the planning side, for the design phase, which has already occurred with the city's knowledge. The construction, however, is another issue, because you can't really begin construction for the following reasons. The district shall provide a publicly noticed opportunity for members of the public to receive information on such proposed plan and to present input and comments on such proposed plan and or any request for proposal. Additionally, this is where it gets very specific, the city shall be provided the opportunity, friends, prior to approval by the district, close friends, to review, comment on, and approve any improvement plan. That's the key phrase, with one caveat, which approval shall not be unreasonably withheld. Those are key factors in this discussion, which were perhaps not discussed in great detail during the joint meeting, which I also attended with you all. And implied within the issue of approval of unreasonably withholding approval is the fact that you can't act arbitrarily, you can't act capriciously. And what you heard from the council members at last week's joint meeting was some liked the plan, some didn't like the plan, some were in between on the plan. The end result was that there seemed to be some consensus, as I heard it, that they're looking to you to provide a premise for the financing side of construction, which is enough at the topic which obviously is of concern to each of you in this room today. If, however, they don't like the plan, but you bring in your plan, which you're obligated to provide, with a financing package which supports that plan, I think that the city would have a bit of a difficult time in disapproving your plan as financed. And there would potentially be an unreasonable withholding of their consent. I say that not because I assume that they'll take that action. I can only assume for discussion based upon this document that it implies reasonableness, it implies fair play, it implies and requires good faith on both parties' side. That's what you're trying to accomplish. So if one group thinks that the city thinks it can develop its own golf course on one side and you can develop your on another side, this document is a comprehensive document for the project, which includes both sides. It's not just a one-sided deal. That's not how it was cut between the parties. And again, just for the record, you don't have the luxury of meeting in private about a public project. You're not a private agency. This is not litigation. This is not a labor negotiation. It's not a security of public buildings conversation. So your only place to have these conversations is during the public session, much like the city council did before the workshop of last week, which I also got to watch. And they talked about their options. They all didn't agree on every aspect of the plan, but what they did agree on was an approach to this organization, which was that they don't agree with your approach. Yeah, and that is something which you have to reconcile because the document does not just imply, it requires it. So I'm happy, we're happy, Jake and I, to complement your discussions this evening, but I think there is an expectation that during the meeting scheduled for the workshop next week, that there be some proposal coming from this group that supports the answer, because you can't meet in private to discuss the issue. And just one more thing, if I may, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The motion which you adopted at the last regular meeting of this organization to delegate to a member the opportunity to discuss and to negotiate with the city is not intended to bypass the public. It's not intended to bypass the commissioners or bypass the council members. It was simply the ability to have one person as your point person to help you in the context of making the right decisions or making any decisions that can be taken back to the board for final approval. There's never any intention to skirt the sunshine law or any other aspect of state law in making that assignment. And the city might have taken it somewhat differently, which I understand can be the case. There are greater issues than just that at risk this evening in the context of where you travel. You've invested heavily with an outside consulting firm. They're not a bunch of incompetent folks. They're highly qualified professionals. You've invested in them. You've done what the contract requires. It's a contract. It's an agreement. It's a local agreement to, in fact, provide for that plan and that design. And you have that plan and design. It may not be the plan and design the city wants to have, but it's your plan. It is your design based upon your qualified professionals, which you have the ability and good faith to submit to the city council for their consideration. With the caveat now that there'll be a financing plan to support it. That'll help hopefully in this discussion. I'm happy to jump in over time.
Thank you, Sam. That's very helpful.
Thank you, Angela.
Erin, do you have anything else?
I guess an option would be to come at them nicely and say, this is our ILA with you on the golf course. Will you fund the 18 holes with us?
Okay, Brianne, would you put that up there as a possibility?
For the combo, I guess for the combo.
For them to fund the 18 holes with our design?
Okay. We'll put that as a pro.
I would think so.
It's a sword making my camera look so that it's not maybe.
Okay, Craig, we always like to hear from the numbers man. Light's not
on. Okay. I do want to come back to the board meeting, but let's just go through the pros and cons. And that way, Brianne, just if you already have it up there, ignore it. So I'm just going to run down the list.
Okay.
So for the pros for the district, we'll pay the contractors. We have control of the design, and we're done as designed, and we've already done the research. I'd also add to that, we have an interlocal agreement that is already completed for the whole course, as we learned here. Let me catch up. You good?
Yes.
So pros for the city is the city has resources. If they do it, they have buy-in. You know, they can get through the red tape. And we really haven't talked about that because there is a lot of red tape with the city.
It's on my list too.
So, I mean, it simply is, you know, not comprehensible to think that, you know, we'll be treated like every other contractor, every other developer, everyone else, and you will be waiting and waiting. There's no buy-in. And so if you do it yourself, you just don't have that buy-in. And that's pretty important. But I think they have the money. You know, they do have the financial resources to do whatever's needed. And I think they really do want to be the ones to validate the design and cost. And I don't see anything wrong with that, to be honest with you. If I was spending $24 million, I'd like to know exactly what I'm going to get in every finite detail. So, and I think they're very proactive on that. So going to the partnership, the pros, the pro is you're going to get shared revenue and expense. So this comes with the good and the bad. It has a forced consensus, as we saw, that we did not like. That's a pro and a con, but I think this is part of the process, people. It's going to take a while to get consensus amongst 10 people. It's tough, but you get there. And then some things in the partnership are just, you know, beyond our control, but it helps to have another partner in it. So, you know, I think there's a lot of pluses for the partnership.
Okay, that is opportunity for the.
That's right. The cons, just in general, the cons for the district, details matter. You know, we've talked big picture on a lot of things, but the details do matter. And that's where you get the 17-page questionnaire. Although we didn't like it, it forced us to go through certain things and ask questions. The cons for the district is we do not have the money for it, but we can go out and get the funding for it. So very comfortable with the approach that if we have to, we can get $10 to $15 million in loan. Will be a bond payment. It's financially feasible just on the back of the envelope. By the way, the rates have come down significantly, which means it's more viable. But you have to find someone who's willing to lend to you. And you do have to go through the city for approval. It's just not, it's not going to happen overnight. You're talking several months to make that happen, but it's doable. The other con on this is no buy-in. You know, you lose buy-in. And just going back to the contract in general, if we're going to force the city on a contract to approve, not with reasonably withheld their approval, I think that is a wrong approach because they simply, we need their buy-in as a partnership one way or another. So how you get there, it's got to be worked through. On the city, the cons would be we lose a lot of control over it. And these things can be mitigated. But right now, when they start talking about other course designs, what they're talking about is a redo of the course, really reliving everything that we've already gone through. And I think they're going to come to the same conclusion we did. And to be honest with you, no offense for the non-golfers in the room, but I have a great concern about non-golfers taking over the golf course of trying to design an 18-hole facility. I guess I've never really said I'm a non-golfer or a golfer, but I guess I've golfed. I did get a hole in one, so I'm happy I did that many years ago. But I never really considered it's all of the community, and I think it should be multi-used in a lot of different ways. But you need a golfer to design the 18 holes, and to me, that's why I chose or selected the Fazio team because of the creativity of the east side and the west side. And I still think that holds true today, that it was a really good plan, and that when the city comes around and looks at it, they have a very nice facility. So just to wrap up, where do we go on this thing? The partnership is still, to me, the most likely best thing. It addresses the questions, is the district likely to run it? We have to get over this trust factor. This is a joint effort. There's more dollars for us to do other projects. We can balance everything out. And I think the approach as far as going into the giving them something back to look at is that, number one, they're looking for clean numbers. And I mean clean numbers that it was very confusing at the joint meeting. We had numbers all over the board, and it shouldn't be like that. And I to you, Bob, I know that we entrusted you or made that motion in the meeting before, so I was expecting that. I was okay with you running with the ball, making changes and doing things. But what I was uncomfortable with is when you came in and said it was $7 million. But I want to let you keep on going to see where you're going with it. And it was kind of, I think Jeremy summed it up correctly. He said, hey, they came with a number, but then when you unpackaged it, it was the same as before. And it became a unnecessary confusion because you're not going to buy and build a course for $7 million. You have to have the grow-in period. So I'm working off this sheet that says everything. And by the way, I hate this sheet because numbers add up. In my accounting background, some numbers always add down. They just don't add up. But the schedule says 13.8 million. And we were picking out the pieces that we wanted for it. And I don't think that's fair to them, and it added confusion to the whole matter. So what you're really asking for is a golf course is 17.8 million. And what I heard was this 13.8 million is going to be value engineered into something lower when we get to the next round. But we didn't get to the next round because there's confusion over the numbers. So I do think they seem pretty high just because maintenance facility and tools, I guess. I don't know. I've never bought all this stuff, so I have to go with the design group saying it's expensive and it's 13.8 million, and it could be lower. But I think what they're looking for from us is, number one, is we come in with a solid, very detailed numbered schedule. Say this is what it is, and then the question back to the Fazio team, what if we gave you half, what can you do? They were very clear, they're not ready to sink 24 million into it. And to Mr. Goski, I know you've been very a champion of the vision of the clubhouse and the tunnel, but those are so far off the table right now that we can't even consider them. You know, it is a trailer at best you're going to do out there. I would focus on these numbers, what you have in phase 1 and phase 2. Those are the two complete pieces. And what do you get if you get half? Tell us what our options are, and then it's just like a car. You know, when you go to buy a car, you start out with, you're lured in by the advertisement, it's going to be $20,000. Oh, did you want air conditioning in it? Yes. Well, unfortunately, I have to buy the navigation system too, even though I use Waze. You know, so okay, now I got this. You got this is to make this work. You have to have solid numbers, and it's no one cares about the design on those guys because they're non-golfers. And then you come back and say, well, if you take all this stuff out, guess what? You know, the water goes on the entire course all at once because we're one sprinkler system, no matter what. And I think they're going to come to the same conclusions you will, and we'll come to the same number. But they're looking for that number to be clean and clear, and they're looking for a clean and clear ask. So I don't think it was unreasonable, Bob, to say, is it 10 million or 15 million? They are looking for that number. And then they want buy-in on the design. And that buy-in on the design, I'm coming to, is something that we overlooked. And when we started this process, you know, look, I'm new to our public works here and stuff, and to be honest with you, Mr. Koski has done most of the work. He has done the heavy lifting. He's had all the meetings with everyone. But when you do it kind of solo like that, you design what you think is right, but it may not have everyone's feeling and input into it, and some of the decisions that are made in it. And Susie, you've done a wonderful job of herding everyone back together and assuring us it's working, and I appreciate that. But there's still a little bit of, you know, other people. I'm bought in. Hey, I'm into the 18 holes and the driving range. I'm the short course. I think those are all good things. But to get everyone else along on the way, we need to get them to buy in. And they need to go and do their own due diligence. And that's kind of where we're at. They need to get that buy-in. So my suggestion would be is take up 2 months and offer the Fazio team and all of our supporting staff to meet with them wherever they want at City Hall. Let them explain. Let them go get their own consultant, whatever they want, wherever they want. Let them, you know, maybe they'll come up with a different solution. But we never had the heart-to-heart discussion that you change the grass. What does that do? You know, I don't know. I mean, it may give you a different look that we don't want, but it comes with the cost. It comes with the decision that was made really by the team. Probably the right decision, but at least they want to have some feel and flavor into it. So give them that opportunity.
Well, I don't think that's been definitively decided upon. I mean, it's not written in stone, is it, Tom?
Exactly what grass we're using?
Yes.
Yeah, there are options.
There are options, but it all comes back to cost. This design has an assumption in it, and I don't know.
It's initial cost and then it's ongoing maintenance cost, so we have to consider both.
Right. So we'll get there. And so I guess my point though is give us some of those decision points. What are the costs up front and what is the ongoing cost, what the trade-offs are. But I think we're still going to come back to the same conclusion, but that group who is contributing the money wants to have a say. And I think we should give them the time to have a say. The other thing that has been totally ignored, and I think that to do this correctly, it needs to be addressed now. And when we did the purchase of this property, we were, you know, a little quick on some of the stuff. There was a lot of title work done on it. And one of the concerns I have going forward for anything is, you know, our residents at Boca Chica. And when I say that, you know, Harold and the team have been here a lot. You know, you've been champions of this, but from the overall perspective, you guys are the biggest gainers of this. With the golf course, the value of a home is much more than it is as an empty golf course. And what bothers me is I'm very concerned about deed restrictions. And I think we should take the time right now to have the title research done to say, look, the deed restrictions, Boca Chica can really help this community by removing all the deed restrictions for anything related to it. Because what the team had to go through on the signage in the front is unacceptable. That I have no interest in doing anything to rename the front of the course. If you're trying to make money on this thing with the name of a different HOA or anything else, I think that was just crazy. And it all comes back to the deed restrictions. So if there's going to be other deed restrictions that say we can't have lighting, we can't have a restaurant, we can't have other things, or anything that make this course genuinely work, it needs to be taken care of right now. And I think the easiest way to do that is to ask our attorneys to go through the title work and come back with a proposal to the Boca Chica Homeowners Association to say, look, you guys need to waive all the restrictions. You want this golf course? We do too. We all agree with it, but we do not want to waste the taxpayers' dollars. We cannot. So guess what? If you want to have lighting, and I think, Mr. Rollins, I appreciate you mentioning what the lighting could be, but that to me, that message to that gentleman was, it's all exploratory. If the lighting needs to be up lighting, it needs to be up lighting. I don't know what it is. I've never seen this ground up lighting. I'm all on board with trying to figure it out. But if you're going to put up nets on poles, then you might as well put a light on it.
Well, Wayne has assured us that it's not going to offend the homeowners.
I get the assurance, Susie, and I'm on board. I think he's gone out of his way to build a berm and move the largest trees to block everything. I think that's all good, and I think it probably will solve the problem. But we still have one homeowner who is going to look back at a deed restriction that says can't do this, can't do that, and shove it in our face. I don't want the city nor the district to put any money into this course with limitations that do not allow it to become a golf course, but the proper advertisement. And I think the Boca Chica homeowners collectively are on board with a nice golf course. And to do a nice golf course, it's going to be a lot of money. And to do a lot of money, you need to be nice to the investors. And the investors are the city, the residents, and everyone else. So it's time for Boca Chica to step up and say, we not only support the district and the city in doing this, but we're removing the restrictions so that it is for the city and the district to use and to maximize the use. And if it's not, we now know that the Boca Chica owners don't want to do that. And I don't think that's the case, but we need to know that answer. And there's got to be no restrictions on this. And that's something that should have been addressed in the beginning, as well as this guy who's sitting out, squatter out in the middle of the course. It was not addressed in the beginning. That was a problem that should have been addressed by the prior owner, and we didn't do it. So these things are all kind of coming back to bite us, and I'm like done with it. The collaboration needs to be taken back. We got to do the collaborative part of it. We need to clean up the addressing title things, let the deed restrictions be removed. This, we have time because the squatter is still out there. I think we're running into the 6-figure number on taking care of this. We shouldn't be paying this kind of stuff. And so if that's the case, please understand why the city is very hesitant to give any money towards this. And I think this golf course is in true jeopardy. So, I just got a message earlier today saying from a homeowner representing 2 buildings saying they do not want to have lighting or a driving range. Now, next turn is going to be, if we get halfway done, is I'm going to get the deed restriction from that building that says there can never be a driving range or being lighting. I don't think we need to find that out. We need to find that out right now and be done with it. And to be done with this whole thing, we need to get any restrictions researched and removed. So tonight's meeting, what I would like to do is make a motion. I'd like to have the discussion. I'd like to make a motion to have our attorneys review the Boca Chica deeds and title work restrictions. And if there are any restrictions, draft something that waives all deed restrictions. And they may have already gone away. There's a time, I've heard there's time periods of like 30 years that things go away. But I think we need to make sure it's free and clear for everything for the city or the district to do anything on it. And if there is, it needs to be addressed by those HOAs. And if it's not, we will address it at that point in time. So I just take a motion.
Mr. Koski was in on the all the title work, and it was his suggestion for the research. Do you have any knowledge that there are deed restrictions?
The city and the district
both agreed that whatever restrictions there were on the property are not enforceable against either government agency.
I would like the opinion of outside counsel to confirm it.
I think I dropped a signal about the cost.
Okay, I see you're making notes, Mr. Bourne, so we have a motion that's been seconded by Mrs. Wright. Let's have some discussion.
Jump in. First, I want to compliment Mr. Ernst on a very well thought out and put together response to these questions. I was very impressed. Not cost. I think Mr. Ernst brought up some very good points. We need to know once and for all now whether or not there are any encumbrances on the property, whether it be a deed restriction, an issue of title, whatever the case might be. Because this is really stuff that can endanger the whole project and can bog us down literally for years if we have to litigate. So with that in mind, I endorse Mr. Ernst's motion. That's all I got.
Mrs. Wright already seconded, but thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign.
And Chair, just to clarify, this motion is very limited in the context specifically as to the deed restrictions and covenants that might otherwise impact future development. That was the limitation of the motion, correct? And for the record, we've not looked at title, we've not seen it, but we're happy to look at it promptly and to look at the issues. If there are any prior opinions of the city council's legal counsel, city attorney's office referencing the issue about covenants not running against the government, we'll be happy to look at that. If there is such an opinion, I'm certainly confer with Mr. Koski after the meeting and get a better read on that. To be accurate, I would prefer not to opine at the moment without having looked at anything that would help me to support that answer.
Do we have to engage another title company or?
No, let me look at what we have and then we'll report back to you promptly as to what there is. I'm assuming for discussion, and like, there's many of them frankly, but there's been some exchange within the city and the district previous to closing, which would support the legal concept, which I am familiar with, which relates to the fact that certain covenants do not run against the government. If that's the case, it may not be affecting us as a public entity. So we'll look at that.
Thank you, Mr. Bourne. And thank you, Craig. That was excellent.
And honestly, I hope there's nothing. So, but I want to make absolutely sure that we have the full right to put up lighting as needed and, you know, what restrictions we will run into. We have the full right to put whatever name we want to put up there. There is no unreasonable conditions held up. We have the full right to do things. And if we don't, you know, and if it's more of the case, well, because you're the government, you own the property, you can't sue the government, you can't sue the property. I would rather the Boca Chica homeowners come together as a group and recognize it, and also say we fully support the district doing whatever is needed to do to build a golf course in our backyard, because that's what we want, and we understand that that may have whatever is needed on it. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Just going back to the beginning when the discussion was to assist the city with whatever is necessary to keep golf in Boca. We didn't volunteer to buy the property. They're suggesting a land swap with some funds going back and forth to the city for the Boca Municipal. But when it turned out that you know, we actually ended up making an offer, you know, I heard from one of the city councilmen that we were in competition with them to buy the property. I don't know where that came from, because I don't know that there was any other offers on the table to buy the Ocean Breeze Golf Course. But when the city agreed to our purchasing the golf course, this was in November 2017, the terminology that they were using were a championship golf course and a world-class golf facility. And I think we want a world-class municipal course. It doesn't necessarily have to be a country club course, but it's got to be one that's fun to play, aesthetically pleasing, and I think that's what we were trying to do with our golf course design. The thing that struck me in listening to the discussion at workshop and city council is that they're behind the curve in understanding what we're doing. And I think, Craig, you alluded to that. Comments like the district is wedded to the design. I don't think we're wedded to anything. We took a look at 19 different architects with their plans, selected Price Fazio, which we thought had the best creativity, and the design itself wasn't decided until after numerous public hearings that we had with the public. And then as a commission, we, to a person, agreed with the design that we selected and the one that we sent to the city in March. I think a big part of the problem is that we, even though we had city representatives here at the meeting that probably may have gone back to the city and gave them some idea of what the discussion was, because we have had representatives at our meeting on just about every meeting we've had on that golf course. But I think that the failing on my part was to suggest that we have periodic meetings with the council and explain to them what we're doing as we went through this. I mean, I learned a great deal during this process about golf courses and designs, and we had some tremendous architects that came and made a presentation to us, and we selected a designer, got a design that we were all comfortable with. And in looking at the workshop or the city council meeting the other night, they're still uncertain about the design. If I had to take a guess, I think every one of them, every one of the council members said that they did not like the design, but I came away not knowing what they did not like about the design. So my only thought about that is that maybe we just didn't, maybe they didn't understand why the lakes need to be larger than what they had on Ocean Breeze. I think Tommy answered that question. I thought Mr. Thompson probably came closer to a really good point by saying, what should golf look like in Boca? I don't think it's a 9-hole course in Winter Park. I went out to Red Reef Park Sunday. I was at the Red Reef Golf Course, just taking a look at that course. Beautiful course. It's underplayed. I don't know why that is, unless it's taken a little bit better care of than place at Winter Park. I have no idea. I mean, I don't know what the green fees are. Maybe that's $6. So it can't be the price. So, my question, I think that city council deserves answers to the questions that they asked us. And I think part of the problem, Steve, in the past you mentioned that there's some issues with another relationship. Our enabling legislation made us a funding agency for the acquisition of the Shine Track, and for the operation and maintenance of the Shine Track and any future beach and parks that were acquired by the city. In doing our elected duty, we're not always on board with the decisions that the city might want to do in building something. So right there is a conflict that's inherent in our relationship. Is that it in the entirety? I don't think so. I think there's probably other things, but I think that's one of the more challenging things. I really think that taking a little more time to get this right. I think there was a comment by one of the councilmen, you don't want to rush into anything. I don't believe that they want when it gets down to it, like Craig said, if we give them some really good hard numbers, I do believe that they'll participate in this project with us. If that's what we decide to do. I want to get the design that we approved, that the public commented on, and we spent months getting it right. I think we did get it right. Is there a way to value engineer it? Perhaps there are some things that we can scale down. The clubhouse, the maintenance shed. We can also go over with the city the reason why the clubhouse was located from the northwest corner to the southeast corner. I mean, we didn't address that with the council, but they brought that up. The other thing that there was some confusion on were the golf fees. In the meeting last Wednesday night, they spent probably an hour talking about our golf fees. We have never addressed golf fees, yet they were all concerned that our golf fees were too high. I looked at the golf fees that was in our National Golf Foundation. Osprey is charging $61 during the week and $63 on the weekend. I don't see any distinction here. This is from the National Golf Foundation. Boca Municipal is $46. So why would somebody pay more to go to Osprey than Boca Municipal? I mean, Boca Municipal is certainly is reasonably priced, but we haven't even decided. We didn't get so far on the operation and the revenue stream to figure out what our golf fees were going to be. I think when we get down to cases, the fact that we have a driving range and short course, much like the executive course, much like Boca Municipal has, they've had 22,000 rounds on their 9-hole executive and 51 on their main course. I think we're going to have to evaluate the economics of it, which we have not done. What kind of a profit are we looking for, or are we just looking to break even? But I think that those are the kind of answers that the city is looking for. I made a comment kind of amused at is that they can't approve a Rolls Royce type of a golf course. I certainly wasn't planning on having that expensive a golf course nor having golf fees that were unaffordable by our residents. But it gets back to Andy Thompson's question: what kind of a golf course do we want in Boca? I think that I respect the concern that the city council had over our presentation, our somewhat murky finances that they were talking about in their deliberation. But I think if we go back with some hard numbers, my suggestion would be that we fulfill that commitment. We told them we were going to do that next Monday by having some information for them. Let me get to the questions at hand here. With the one where the city develops and constructs a golf course entirely, I don't know that I said anything different than anybody else. And we've got the financial resources. They've also got a potential source of human resources, whether it's labor or engineering to validate the cost. And fast track through permitting might be beneficial. I don't know whether, some of them are talking about more efficient, and I don't know about that. I thought we were a pretty efficient operation when we're doing our construction projects. The con is the city would probably scrap our Price-Fazio design, and I think we spent a lot of time and effort. The public spent a lot of time coming and giving us their comments, and I think that would be a shame to scrap that plan. I think that the city would have to go to bid for a consultant. That's going to add time to construction of golf course. And then the question is, what happens when the course is completed? And our revenue bond has been terminated by prompt payment. The title, according to the ILA, reverts to us. Does that include all the structure that maybe the city put on there? So figuring out that component would be a challenge. With the district, we did the design, which was selected by the commissioners and the public. I think the public would be very happy our efforts on that. Construction drawings are nearly complete. We could go to bid fairly quickly for,
Are we under just the district limits?
I'm sorry, this is the district now, Brian, I'm sorry. If the district did it, you know, it would be a design selected by the commissioners and the public. Our construction drawings are nearly complete. The con would be the financial difficulties. But I do believe, as Craig said, that we have the resources to go obtain a loan. We don't have the resources to borrow $28 million, but between 10 and 15 million, we probably could. And so that might open the door to item number 3, which is a partnership with the city. It'd be a matter of working out the funding operations. That would probably be a challenge, but I think that the city certainly has the funds, and it'd be a matter of what amount would we be willing to participate, or what could we participate in. With funding by the city for construction, other projects that we have might be accelerated. I mean, we have on our future plans a new field house at Sugar Sand Park. We do have Patrick Park that needs upgrade, and some other maintenance issues. The district, up until we got into this project here, has just been into maintenance. You know, we did all the building 20-some odd years ago, and now the buildings are in need of maintenance, and that's where we find ourselves with a place like Patch Reef. The con with working with the city in the partnership is a decision-making problems. That would be who would make what decision, and if we don't improve our communication, you know, that'd be a very complicated scenario trying to get an agreement on something. I think it would be a little cumbersome to do that. But I think it's a possibility if everybody came with the idea that we're going to work together and get this project done for them.
Bob, could I add one to yours that you made me think about it? Is the city's the pro that we overlooked is they have golf operating experience. Now the problem is it's always been low priority for them. I think the folks at the whole community have done a phenomenal job with the resources they have. They don't have resources.
Craig, could I weigh in on that? Because Brianne did a little research for me. That in the last 5 years, yes, they have the experience, but they both communities lost $451,384 over that period. Red Reef has lost $1,077,463 in the last 5 years. That's a total of $1,528,847. So experience is great, but we, and I know we don't have the experience, but there are management companies that could help us out.
Well, I think to Craig's point, I understand what Sue is saying, because I've known for a long time that the city manager really didn't want to be in the golf business, so he was not putting any money into that project. I mean, it's worth the $40 to play it. I've played the course, not as much as some of the others have, but I've dumped my share of balls in the canal out there. But it's just the finish work wasn't there on the course. The tees and greens were fine, but everything in between was, looked like a municipal course. But I think you look at our facilities as an example, Spencer Fields. Compare that with anything else in the city. And that's because we invest, when we build something, we invest in maintenance probably more than anybody else. And you're out there a lot, Aaron's out there, so am I. So we see what's going on. So we're watching our properties a lot closer probably than the city might. And I think with our financial resources added to the financial resources of the city, there's a possibility that this course would be, I would hope it would be a step above anything that we've had at Buckeye Municipal, and that would be our plan. Whether you call it a championship golf course or world-class golf course, it's going to be something more than just your standard municipal golf course, I think, because this is Boca. We expect more in our community. And when I was on the Parks and Rec Board for 10 years, occasionally somebody would say, well, in Plantation, they're doing this. Well, this is not Plantation. And it was clear in everything that we do. You look around at everything, project that the district has undertaken, it's first class. But anyway, I'll close my speech to say that I think that we need to do a better job getting what we know about this golf course with City Council. I think that they would have been more receptive to that had we been meeting with them as we've gone along. And as the previous chairman, I regret that because it was my chairmanship under which that watch occurred. And you get busy in the forest and you can't see the forest for the trees. And I never had any idea that this was going to be a problem later on. But hopefully the City Council with the proper plan, financial plan, will approve our concept for this golf course, because I think it's a winner. And I think it will be durable for the next 40 years, just much like Boca Municipal was.
So you're saying that you want a district only funded and operated?
No, I did not. You know, I've had community members say to me, give it to the city and they'll still be working on it when your kids graduate from college. I really don't have any idea that would, I just don't want to lose the Price Fazio sign. I would not mind exploring financing in case that we need to borrow some money in order to even collaborate with the city, unless the city wants to give us a grant for $28 million, which I do not believe they do. But there's going to be some financial commitment on our part. We just need to know what it is and make that ask that Aaron was planning to do. And I'm short-circuited her presentation. But I do think that my decision would be to work out a partnership relationship with the city. I think that would get them on board, help them understand what we now know. I took about 8 pages of notes from their watching their council meeting, and they all were uninformed about a lot of information, and that's our fault. I'll take the blame for that. But I think once we clear this up and explain to them how we got to where we are with this design, I do believe that we'll get approval on it.
Thank you, Bob. I think the ball's in my court now. One of the things that I'd like to ask for Monday night's meeting is to have Mr. Fazio, Mr. Branthwaite, whoever they decide that they would like to take along with them, to explain to the city council. I know we've offered to have them meet one-on-one. So far, only a couple of them have actually taken us up on that. So let them do a presentation of why the course has been designed as it has, with the water features, with, and we could get some numbers together to show what the National Golf Foundation has said would be generated from the short course, from the driving range, from the 18 holes. So that would be one of the things that I would like to see happen for the presentation. As far as my thoughts about the pros and the cons, one of the cons of having the city develop it on its own is, and Steve, you and I have to look out for about 20,000 people who don't have a say in what the city does. And so if we don't have it as a district only or a partnership, those people are going to get left out in the cold. There's no guarantee that they would be given the same greens fees and tea times and what have you as residents of the city itself. The other con of having the city develop this is something that we've all forgotten about, is the Petrikowski lawsuit. Where does that go? That's our lawsuit. That's not the city's. I know they gave us the ability to bring it forward, but as of August 1st, hopefully Mr. Petrikowski will be off the property, we won't have that problem anymore. Most of the other pros and cons, if we were to have a city and district combo, would it be possible and legal to have a representative from each board as the point people to bring everything back to the respective boards? Or do you have to have it in the sunshine? Mr. Gorin, do you have a thought about that?
I may respond, Madam Chair, it all depends upon what the delegated authority is. If in fact there's no delegated authority to make decisions or to negotiate particular answers, then theoretically you could have a point person. If it's just basically having meetings on a periodic basis, it's one member of two different bodies.
What about staff?
Staff would not be able to function as conduits in the context of information. Again, the key factor being that you all have the legal obligation to make decisions in public. If a member of your group is going to periodically meet with a council member, just to talk globally about where you are with things without any decision making or where there may not be something foreseeable to be taken back per se, you may be able to deal with it on a non-sunshine basis. But I would look at the facts and look at what the specific assignment was to come to a better conclusion. Have to be very careful. Obviously, you're all very conscious of that, as is the city council. But if you're going to have just a point person meeting periodically, that may not be in and of itself a legal issue. Unfortunately.
There are going to be a lot of decisions to be made. So having 10 people plus their staffs.
If I may, Madam Chair, but typically though, in that regard, when you're dealing with operational issues, during the course of planning or construction, what have you, your executive director and the city manager or his or her designee, typically that's what they do. That's what the operational people can make those decisions. Once you begin to isolate each other from the commission into that mix, you can open up certain doors that you can't close if you're not careful. And I would suggest that we look at the facts when you offer them up and we can give you our best answer. But typically, day-to-day operational affairs, conditions of that type are handled typically by operational staff, which would be Brianne, and presuming to be the city manager is his deputy in that regard, which is the day-to-day obligation. And reporting back to the commission, reporting back to the council would be that duty, that obligation.
Commissioners, if we were to do a combo, would you want to see it phased? Or do you think that we could all do it all at one time?
I think as a practical matter, we have to have it phased because as far as the intergovernmental relationship, there are a lot of, I don't know what the word to use, I don't want to say ill will, because that's not an accurate description. There are a lot of misconceptions, and those need to be cleared up. And in order to clear those up, there has to be a mutual trust built up. And you can only do that in increments. They need to understand that we have the best interests of the residents of the district at heart, and we need to understand that they too have the best interests of the constituents of the district at heart. And you can only do that step by step at this point. So I would say it needs to be done in phases.
Okay. Does anybody else have any thoughts about that?
Well, I think what I heard when we looked at phases from the Fazio team was it just wasn't practical, it would be more expensive in total. So I think it goes back to, it goes back to Bob's question, what do they want, what do we want? I think when we come to the conclusion, we expect a nice golf course that is a priority, certainly is a priority to build, and when it's done, it's everything we already presented, but they're not there yet. So once they get there, if they're investing in it, they will want to control, it's their money. So I suggest we let them control that, but we have to get agreement on the design first. And so we keep jumping ahead of ourselves on things. we need to focus on the design, and we miss that step. We have to go back and say, what do you want? What's your design? We've already designed this. It's 26 million. Okay, now if you want that clubhouse, they don't, or they do or they don't. You just have to decide. Be done with it. My feeling is I don't think the tunnel or the clubhouse should be the showstopper. I absolutely think the tunnel is viable. I think it can come in at far less cost if done, but it's not going to be done by us. It's going to have to be done by the city. They have staff dedicated to those kind of things, and they want that control. So if it expedites it, the one thing we all agreed upon is how do we expedite this? So I really want us to go back to the design, give them every resource they can look at, bring them up to speed, get the design. If you agree on our design, this is the numbers. You can chase it, anything, value engineer all you want, but then it comes down to implementation. So we want it done the most expeditiously. We do not have to decide that right now. We just need to decide on design and the cost.
Well, I think something else they want to know about is who is going to be running it and what the cost will be. Wayne and I met with a golf course superintendent on Friday, and he gave us some really interesting numbers for an 18-hole golf course. Not exactly the same as what we're anticipating, but the local courses that he was referring to, he said, do you want a 5 or do you want a 10 or do you want a 7? His golf course was 1.1 million, but it was run with a skeleton crew. What he considered to be a 10 was 1.9 million. And and then we have to decide what kind of staffing and the costs of staffing. And I think the National Golf Foundation has a pretty good handle on that Wayne and Tommy could provide for us. So those numbers have to be presented to the city because they're asking for that too.
Yeah, but I think on those numbers, we said in the beginning that we were going to assume the city staff, they were going to operate it. We need to simplify these decisions. So in my world, we are not in a position to staff up, 25, 50 people and start paying them and doing anything. The district is just not. So you're talking, your other option is to outsource, which is an option. And then the other option is the city staff move over and they run it and manage it. But to go back to, it's all in the programming to be. So why is Red Reef not really, exciting? And I think it's a great course, but it's in the program. It goes back to the city has not given it resources to do things. So could they do things on the green? They could do this sling golf. They could do a lot of different things to really beef up the programming of it. But we believe, and I think we correctly believe, we have the feedback of constituents that we want to have a nice course. We developed a nice course. They need to get up to speed on that. Then it comes back to how good are those numbers. They wanted to chop it in half, whether you call it Winter Park 9 or whatever. Well, what does that get you? I think you come back to, you build it back up to what you already have. But they have to go through that part of the process. As far as who operates it and the cost of it, it will probably be easier if we and they let them run that part of it. Just take that decision off the table but we want to say in the programming, we want to say that it is, that's the important part to me. We have that say. That's something the district has been kind of the governor on the city to make sure our fields are the best, and we have to have. That's where we have a lot of value.
I would say, Craig, that we at ILA said we would do our best efforts to place the city employees, whether it's at the golf course or some of our other facilities, and filling vacancies. I think we need somebody with some creativity, some marketing skills, and to manage the course and have a good superintendent course that takes care of all the maintenance in there. I would hope that we would come to some kind of arrangement on what the city would want to put into it. I mean, there was a sample district scenario that we looked at, but even if the city wanted us to put in $7 million, it may be to look in financing that with a bond issue. certainly doesn't impact our cash flow. And I know I saw in the packet there was a financial analysis analyst that we've used before on this, and it may be a good idea to engage that person again to take a look at those financing options. With the city, the one prevailing comment that I seem to hear over and over is that if we weren't asking for the money, there'd be no problem improving the course. I think we should probably need to take a look at financing just for, if nothing else, for grins and giggles to find out if we could afford to finance a portion of the construction if we're talking about. I don't want to do the phases for the reasons that Craig mentioned, but if that was our only option, I'd certainly consider doing that to keep the Price Fazio concept going. I think it's the best one. It was the best golf course architect team that we saw out of all those. We saw Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus and various other well-known Trent Jones. And we took Price Fazio over all of those qualified firms that applied. So I would think option 2 for me was the district going alone, but I think having city resources there would be very beneficial. Collaborative effort.
Well, I agree with Craig that, permitting might be a real issue if we don't have a combined effort, because they could just, if they got their backs up, they could just say, well, we'll just put this at the back of the pile. But if they're invested in it, I think that they would look at it. We have to, tonight, and I hope you brought your jammies, because we have to figure out what we want to ask for on Monday. And I mean, my top priority for, other than some money, is to get Tom and his team in front of the city council to give a presentation, and then do the